All right, here we go again. It is, what is it, May 12th? Holy smokes. It always amazes me how fast the years go by the older I get. All right. Anyway, we I sent the notification out a little early this week, so it might have just stifled some people that they got it sooner rather than same day. But anyway, let's get into it here. Anything you guys want me to hit specifically or just generically? Dwayne, welcome back there. I got your email and I looked you up, and you were one of the ones that was on the blacklist on Kartra. So you weren't getting, the stuff wasn't going through. I found that I've got well, not a huge list, but I've got several thousand people on my list in Kartra. And when I went through and checked, I did a sort for all the blacklisted ones, and I found out that I had about almost 40 of my paying customers that were not getting my emails. And I'm like, holy shit, that's not good. So anyway, I sent in a bulk ticket for them to whitelist all of my customers. And they also checked and found probably another 40 of just prospects that were also blacklisted. And we've had the conversation the last several weeks about email deliverability. Everybody faces email deliverability. So if you've got a list, it might behoove you to check the list and make sure that everyone's getting your emails. I know that could definitely be problematic if you're not seeing results from your email list. Roger said, check your list and check it twice. Little Santa reference. They're a little early for Christmas now, but I did hear the Little Drummer Boy song on the radio today. I'm like, where the hell did that come from? Maybe they're prepping us early for Christmas this year. I don't know.
But John, no, it's apropos. Here's why. The people who are going to be selling Christmas items and whatnot have been ordering, they ordered their stuff now from the manufacturers, so they get it on the boat by July, so they get it to the warehouse by September, so they get it to the store by early October, early November. So it's the same thing to all of us in e-marketing. We have to start prepping. We have the holiday coming up July 4th. Then we have our labor in September. And then boom, we're into the holidays. And I think Drummer Boy was a very apropos. He's drumming the buns to get going and be ready now, not wait till October 1st.
That's true. I know in my old days in my photo career, I didn't do like regular photography. I did commercial photography. So it was all products and catalogs and all that stuff. And I always had the entire summer off. They would do all of that stuff early in the year. And then the summer was basically, there was nothing to do. So I went fishing. I made plenty of money while the getting was good. And then basically just took off for the whole summer and went and had fun. And I could always tell, it was interesting in that business. I could forecast the economy like I had a crystal ball because of how the ad agencies were spending money. And it was always, I was at least a year to 18 months ahead of that on that prediction. Like if I saw a slowdown in the ad spend, I started telling my friends, I'm like, you better tighten up your belts. Something bad is coming. And I was right every time with it. And, if good was coming, I could see that too. So it was really kind of a unique position that I was in, working with those ad agencies, seeing how they were funneling money. So pretty cool stuff. But again, it's being aware, being aware of not just being in the world, but being aware of the world around you. There's a lot of stuff that you can see that will give you an advantage. Just like in figuring out who your avatar is. You have to be aware of who they are, what they want, why they want it. A lot of, deeper questions than what most people ask. And, if you want better results, you got to ask better questions. Just comes down to that. But, on another note, Dwayne, I was thinking about you. I almost gave you a call. I had some anxiety about a courtroom case. I got a traffic ticket, and I'm like, oh, hell no, I'm fighting this one. I'm going to court over this one. And I found myself sitting there waiting to be called up, thinking, damn it, I should have talked to Dwayne about this and got a little advice here.
How did it go?
I was triumphant. It was an interesting deal. I think it's quite common in traffic cases that the officer doesn't show up and they just let you off the hook.
Yeah.
And I was looking around and I didn't see him, so I was pretty sure I was good, but the judge kind of threw me for a loop. And, we all sat in the room for a very long time before he even came in. And so the anticipation level was pretty high. And naturally, I'm the first one that he calls up.
That's good.
And I get up there and he calls the officer, and the officer doesn't respond because he's not in the room. And the one thing I did not want out of this was I did not want to spend time in traffic school, right? I'm like, that's just a complete waste of my day. You know how I feel about wasting of my time, right? Well, that just wasn't going to happen. And, he calls the officer doesn't come up. And he says, well, Mr. Limbacher, he says, you have basically two choices here. He said, we can enroll you in traffic school. And I'm thinking, how the hell is that? I should be off to the races here because the guy didn't even show up. He says, I can enroll you in traffic school and we can process the payment today. He said, or you can leave here right now, go to 7-Eleven and get yourself a big gulp. And I'm like, I will take door number 2. Thank you very much. But he really had me going there for a minute. I'm like, damn it, I did not want traffic school. I'm thinking, what the hell is the second option?
Yeah, that's interesting. He could have possibly, I was just thinking, I've heard about those. I haven't been in court like that, but sometimes I think a judge will try to get you to convict yourself. Like you could say, oh, this ticket here says this, were you at that intersection? Did you do this? Did you do this?
No, he was doing this purely for humor, and everybody just loved it, and I did too. I thought it was great. I'm like, usually judges are not real personable like that, and what I've seen anyway.
It varies. I definitely use humor in court, and I have a good sense of humor. So judges actually kind of like it when the tension is broken and they can relax a little. And one time I went up, when you go in as an attorney to check in before a hearing, I went up to the clerk and she asked me my name and who I'm representing and all that. And I throw in 6'2", about 160 pounds. And she goes, what's your favorite color? I said, purple. And after that, she was like on my side. Every time I'd walk in, she'd smile and say hi. And you want to get the clerk on your side, and the judge relaxed and all that. So
yeah, that's awesome. Purple, that's my favorite too. That's royalty.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, we moved to a new house, and one of the options was we got to choose our carpet color for our bedroom. And I told my mom, I go, I want purple. And that's where she drew the line. She says, no, you're not getting purple, blue or beige. So I went with the blue. It was the closest thing.
Well, I have a question actually. I'm writing some articles for LinkedIn, and
Okay.
I'm going to send them to a little email sequence and then offer for a call with me, either to set up personal coaching. I want to pick up a few private clients or invite them into my course. So anyway, I have it pretty much sequenced out. Any thoughts on that? Any as a plan for getting clients?
Yeah, in LinkedIn, are you doing this as an article or are you doing it on your actual bio?
This will be an article.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. I don't really know how distributed the articles are really.
Mhm.
I know that it's a massive content network, so you're definitely putting content into a good place. But one of the things that I tell people with LinkedIn, if you want to play the game in LinkedIn, uh, one of the biggest mistakes is people create their profile looks like a resume,
Uh-huh.
right? And that's a mistake in my opinion. Your your profile page should not read like a resume. It should read like a sales page.
Yeah.
It's it's like back to that whole thing, and this is really sad, but nobody gives a shit about us. They don't want to hear all about you. All they want to hear about is what you can do for them. So if you shift your approach in your whole LinkedIn profile, if you shift that, it will be much more effective when somebody comes onto it. And for God's sakes, don't forget the call to action. That's another big mistake. It's like you go through all this work to set up this profile, and if you're like me, you probably overthink the heck out of stuff and toil with it and edit it and fiddle with it till it's just right. And then you leave the call to action off. It's like, what the hell is the point?
Yeah. I did rewrite that, and it is more like a sales pitch. And I have a CTA, but I'm thinking I should do a more upfront one, like maybe a graphic button or something. I don't know if I can do that on LinkedIn, but maybe I could put it up there closer to my little blurb and what I offer.
Yeah, I haven't played around in the admin of LinkedIn in a long time. So I don't know if you can put graphics in there, but if they don't have the ability to, if you have the button on your site, you can go and you can right click on the page and you can get the source code, and you can copy the source code for the button and try and paste it into the text in your LinkedIn profile and see if the button magically appears.
Okay. Yeah.
Because if they're basically combining HTML in there, then the button will appear. And that's how you can get it on graphically.
Okay. That sounds good. I'll do call me for a free consult, something like that.
Yeah. We used to do that in like eBay listings and Amazon listings and all kinds of stuff. We were able to skirt the rules a little bit and make ourselves stand out. So you can give that a try. And that being the case, any HTML, if you can get the button or an image to show up, you could probably get just about any HTML to show up as well.
Mhm.
So keep that in mind. You can also, if you're doing HTML, I'm not a big HTML guy. I'm not a coder, but I've learned a lot of little tricks over the years. One of the things is if you want to put something in there that people don't see, you can hide it in a comment tag. So for instance, if you wanted to put some kind of a tagging code in there and you wanted to pixel them, you might be able to do that. I can't say for sure without trying it, but there's a lot of stuff that you can hide inside of comment tags. In fact, when we used to try and optimize websites that were made out of Flash, like I don't know if you remember Flash, but
Mhm.
that was a big craze because it was so graphical. There was all these designers that were designing in Flash, And the sites looked awesome. I mean, they were beautiful. They were interactive. They were cool. They were cutting edge. But the search engine didn't see any code. All it was just a reference to the Flash file. There was literally no content on the page. So what I would do is I would take those Flash sites and I would drop HTML into the HTML of the page wrapped inside of a comment tag. And I would put the entire content of a website that I wanted in there, and nobody saw it except for the search engines. So it was like feeding them what they were craving. Search engines crave content to figure out what you're relevant for. So
wow, that's amazing. You put the whole content of the website into
yeah,
it?
I would, and a lot of times I would put more than I would have put in the website, because we would put content in there. And we're talking about way back when search engines valued the code a lot more than they do today. Today they value the user experience. So having more content typically keeps people on the site longer, if you format it right. Like the worst thing you can do in content, and this goes to LinkedIn as well, is put big blocks of text. Big blocks of text is really hard to consume. So when you're designing your content, it's not just about writing. It's not just about the real content. It's about how it's consumed. And that comes to the visual aspect of it. You have to address all of that when you're talking about your avatar, because most avatars in all buckets are going to be, they're not going to like to read. They're and they're busy. People are busier today than they ever have been. And they're bombarded with content more than they ever have been. So you have to take that into consideration. And when you talk about your readers, there's different types of readers, just like there's different types of characteristics for avatars. Most of your readers now online are what's called skimmers and scanners, not scammers, scanners. They will scan content, they'll skim it, and they're looking for the cherries. They're just trying to cherry pick the content to see if it's something that's worth their time to dig into it. And if you don't format your text to appeal to them, they'll just skip it. They'll just look at it. They'll take one glance and they'll be off to the next one. So that's where titles, that's where your H tags come in. You have a big title at the top, and that title should draw them into the next piece of content. And it should be short and sweet. And then there should be another title, and that should draw them into the next piece of content. And you want to engineer those titles to tell the story if you remove the content blocks below them. That way a skimmer and a scanner can consume your content basically at a glance.
That's great. Wow.
And then if they're truly interested, they can dig in, but they don't have to. Make it easy.
That's great. Yeah, I'm definitely going to redo that.
Yeah, that's really important. Even if you can't format, even if you can't do bold and color and all that stuff, if you're locked into, someone else's frame and you can only do text, you can still highlight stuff. You can put short titles with asterisks on both sides of it to grab attention to it, because that's alphanumeric. You can put, dashes, which, make bullet points. You can do numbered lists, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can do things to make your text stand out, even if you don't have the ability for fancy formatting.
Yeah.
So and break it into as small a chunks of text as you possibly can. Whenever I work with somebody on a big idea or an email or anything, if I'm working on their content, I usually tear out about 50 to 75% of what they wrote. And on the way, I'm teaching them, make this simple, cut it down. If there's a word that you can remove in a sentence and the sentence still means the same thing and carries the same value, remove it. And by the time I'm done, we've removed 50 to 75% of what they wrote. And the meaning is so much clearer. The clarity is like, it's crystal clear what they're writing. And it's easy to consume. It takes a tenth of the time to understand what they're trying to say. We all try and overcomplicate things, and I'm no different. I can do this exercise on my own shit. Every time I write something, before I post it, I go back and I play that same exercise and I remove half of it. You know, it's just human nature. We try and make ourselves look smarter than we are. So we overcomplicate the crap out of stuff, and we put way too much detail into it. You know, if you've ever, this is something like I've always been of the mind of do unto others as you would want done to yourself. And this comes to mind whenever I'm talking to somebody, and the sheer volume of their words just exhausts me. It's like, my God, what are you trying to say? Just spit it out. And I'm like, I hate that. So I think of it like, am I doing this to someone else? Because I don't want that done to me. And it's the same thing in the written word as the verbal word. So like, you know, people ask me, how long does my YouTube video need to be? Like, it needs to be as long as it needs to be for you to communicate what you need to communicate. And that's it. You don't need to fill up a 10-minute box just because you can. The faster you can communicate the clarity of what you need to say, the more likely someone will be to take your action when you call it out.
Excellent. I'm going to up myself with a tall cup of coffee and dive in.
Absolutely. It's really easy to sharpen the sword on copy, just if you think about that.
I'll do some real bitter dark, and then I'll do it.
The other thing too, and this is just copy in general, a really solid rule of thumb is to read your copy when you get it where you think it's perfect, right? And you're like ready to hit the post button. Just read it aloud to yourself, like literally speak it through your lips, and then ask yourself, is this the way I really talk? And if it's not going to be the way they hear either, in most cases. If you stumble on it and you trip over the way it's said, it's too complicated. Mm-hmm. You know, think about, is this the way I would talk to somebody? Like, you know, if I'm gonna pick up the phone and talk to Richard about something, is this the way I would talk to him? Or is he gonna think, what are you on? Don't leave that question on the table. That is not a question you want asked of yourself. I want him to think, God, that's crystal clear. I should do that. Hey, thank you for the information. I'm going to take action on that. That's meaningful. I get it. That's more the answer you want, or the response that you want with your copy. So just because you got a big, long, blank page does not mean you have to fill it. Be respectful of others' time.
Great advice. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, John, this is Richard. I submitted a ticket, and so I'm going to follow up with you on the ticket I submitted regarding, are you going to be able to get into a little bit more about how the site pop now works with the Google Maps?
Yes, I am. I just haven't got up to speed on it myself yet. That's the only holdup. That's the only thing that's pumping the brakes for me, is I need to get a handle on it myself before I can clearly explain it. Because the last thing I want to do is, just like I just said, I don't want to spend a bunch of airtime blowing hot air before I can clearly communicate on it. And the other thing too, and I don't know, I think I mentioned this too, or at least alluded to it. We have a new service that we're testing out with one of my old students. This is somebody that I taught SEO to probably 20 years ago, or maybe not 20, but probably 15. And it's a case of the student coming back and teaching the teacher. He has done a lot of work in local marketing, and he's developed a system that's very similar to SitePop in that it sends brand signals into the GMB maps area. And I need to really get my head wrapped around it so I can explain it more clearly. But in concept, that's what it's doing. And he's had phenomenal results at a very low cost. So I'm looking at we're talking about combining some of our search signals and to make his thing more powerful, and then offering what he's doing through an API through our system, so we can have a kind of a double 1-2 punch for the GMBs and the maps. And that's going to be available to all of our resellers very soon. We're testing it. Jim here is actually the first one. We have a live test going on his one of his SEO clients, and I'm really curious to see, because the one that was my student that's been talking to him about it now for the last month or so, he's been showing me case studies of his clients that he's done it with, and it literally lights up their telephone with leads from the GMB. So I'm really excited about it. I have never had a product available, a low-cost product available for that market. And I know it's a big market. It's just not a market I've been willing to go to, because, I look at everything through my goggles of the perfect avatar and the profitable segments of markets. I don't like to go into, market segments where there's not a lot of money and not a lot of profit. But if I can get the costs down and build enough profit in there, not only for us internally, but for our resellers, then that makes a lot of sense to me. So, again, I'm always scanning for opportunities, and when they come along, I pay attention. So I'm hoping that this works out like I think it's going to. And if it does, that's when we'll come together and I will explain it as clearly as possible.
Super. Thank you, John.
Yeah, but I it's one of those things that I don't look forward to a lot of releases, but this might be a really good one for anybody that has, small local businesses or serves that community. So Roger, you got your hand up there. Sometimes I don't see those. I don't know how long it's been up, but
well, that's okay. So I ask questions about Michelle and I's business, about especially copy and funnel, and I use analogies. So here's my analogy, just for your audience's benefit, and that is, let's say you have a weight loss system, and it's not everybody, but a lot of people are interested in weight loss systems, so they never really go out of style, but we're saturated with them. Would you say that the big idea could be something like, you can lose 50 pounds? Like, just make a big claim and say it like with authority. And we all understand the caveat that, well, it depends on them following the regimen. It depends on a lot of other external factors. There's no way you can claim a success result. But in the big idea, in order to get their interest and distinguish yourself from just the Susan Powder system or something, do you make a bold claim and then nuance it in the copy?
Yes. And that is a perfect thing to talk about, because you're right. Like, let's say the diet industry, it's one of the perfect ideal markets, even though it's packed with competitors. The thing that makes it good is it has a constant churn to it. It has new prospects at a phenomenal rate, 24/7, 365. So that changes the dynamic of it. Like normally I wouldn't look at niches that are that competitive, because they have a finite group and you'll hit the end of it real fast. But that's a perfect example of one that is constant forever. So, and when you have a group like that and they've heard all the claims, so your claim is probably not going to be unique. The lose weight while you sleep, take the pill and lose the weight without diet, lose the weight without exercise. That's what they all want. So you have to be clear on that. You have to be clear on what they want, why they want it. They want it because they're lazy. They like food, right? They want to lose weight. They don't want to stop eating.
John, I want to narrow in on your opinion on a specific nuance to this claim.
Mm-hmm.
So the point is that let's say somebody has a system that's pretty effective. It won't work. Not everybody will see the result, but it's pretty effective.
Sure.
And they make the claim, it will work for you 100%.
Mm-hmm.
That's the lead. That's the big idea, right?
Yeah.
Does that capture the people who then read on, or does it instantly turn off your preferred client base because you've just joined the group that claim you can lose weight while you sleep and all of that?
Yes, it can absolutely have that effect. And I was just about to that. It doesn't really matter what your claim is. It's probably not going to be unique. So the thing that's going to actually grab their attention, the big idea is 3 pieces. It's not just a claim. If you miss the other 2, it'll be worthless. So the thing that is going to make them it's going to grab their attention is having a unique mechanism they've never heard of before. It's like Garcinia cambogia. When the diet pill came out, no one had heard of that before. The claim of take a pill and lose weight while you sleep, that was pretty freaking appealing, right? It was bullshit. It didn't work, and everybody figured it out real fast. But for a while, they were just gobbling that up. And then it came to the point of, you cry wolf enough times and they stop, right? So the next guy comes out and he makes the same claim. So technically he could be in that same boat of, yeah, this guy's full of crap. I've tried that. It didn't work. But he attaches it to Garcinia cambogia is the magic behind our pill. So he's got now a unique mechanism that no one's ever heard of before. And all of a sudden, he's got the sales floodgates turned back on just because of that. So when you can take the promise, even though it's the same promise they've heard before, and you can wrap it in a unique wrapper that they haven't heard, and their logic can see how, oh, that's why it didn't work for me. That's why I believe this might. That's your challenge. Your challenge is you've got the 2 sides of the head. You've got to seduce the heart. You do that with promise, right? And then this is good because we haven't had this conversation in a while. You have to seduce the heart, but convince the head. And the heart is your subconscious. The heart is like a small child. It believes anything it's told. It wants what it wants. It wants it now, and it doesn't care about consequences, right? That's the child in you. And we all have it in there. It's our subconscious. It's really easy to seduce the heart. You just make a promise, right? The heart falls in love with it and wants it. But then you have this thing called your head. That's your subconscious. All right, I'm sorry. I had those reversed. Your subconscious is the child. Your conscious mind is your head. So the subconscious is your heart. I haven't talked about this for a while, so I got it reversed. So seducing the heart, that's the subconscious. That's the little kid, wants it now, doesn't care. The problem is now that the heart wants it, you would think I got a sale, right? Well, no, because here comes the head in the way. And the head is the parent. This is the conscious mind. This is what we have to deal with as salespeople, as marketers, as business owners. We have to deal with the head. The head is going to have the objections. The head's going to step in the way. And the job of the head, it's just like the parent. What's the job of the parent? Protect the child. Do not let harm come to this child. Right? So what does the parent say if they don't understand it? No. Just no. I don't have to have a reason, just no. And then the kid throws a tantrum and ultimately realizes he's not going to get his way, so he picks something else to challenge the parent with.
John, that is fabulous information. I'm going to direct you back from the proof to the claim.
Okay.
So in that claim, to what degree do you make a promise that you know will be fulfilled for a lot of your clients, but others not? Because it feels to me like if you say, hey, I can increase the chances that, like let's say you're an attorney.
That sounded very wishy-washy.
Right. Let's say you're an attorney and you are a traffic court attorney, right? Do you have the billboard that says, I can help you possibly maybe get your ticket dismissed? Or do you say, get your ticket dismissed?
Absolutely.
Even though you know that most tickets aren't going to get dismissed.
Absolutely. The one word that you want to describe your claim with is audacious. It should be big and bold.
To what degree where's the tipping point where you start to lose credibility because everybody knows that you're over claiming?
You go all the way to the wall. You do not hold back on the claim, but knowing that they're going to look at that and blow it off if you don't have the connector that makes it true. That's where the unique mechanism comes in. If you don't have the thing to deliver the result, and you don't physically have it in your hand to show it to them, and what I mean by that is having, that unique mechanism. It has to have a name. It has to be unique. It can't be something where they can go to Google, look it up, and find 10 different variations of it. It has to be yours. This is where a product brand comes into it. Like, for instance, in the soda world, Coca-Cola is a brand name. If you type in Coca-Cola, you're going to find Coca-Cola, not Sprite and 7-Up and, all this other stuff. So if, and this is not true, but if you said, hey, we have this new product called Coca-Cola, you drink it and you lose weight while you sleep, and they go and they look up Coca-Cola, they're all roads lead back to you and your product. So that you have to have that unique mechanism that is yours and yours only. And that is one of the biggest pieces that is going to convince the head to at least consider it instead of blowing it off. But for you to get the head to even try to consider it, you have to have the promise. You have to seduce the heart. And wishy-washy does not seduce the heart.
But wishy-washy has credibility, because if you make these claims, lose 50 pounds while you sleep, you're just that person, right? But if you say this with diet and exercise will, cause you to lose more weight than just diet and exercise alone, very wishy-washy, but credible. So
credible. Here's the thing. I get what you're saying, but if you want to sell shit, that doesn't work.
Okay.
It's by sheer volume of numbers is what I'm talking about here.
Okay, then part 2 to this. Let me take you at your face.
If you had a big enough volume of people to throw that wishy-washy claim at, you might make enough to make it worthwhile. But if you don't, you better sharpen the sword.
Okay, then the second part is this. You've made the big promise. And I believe that the viewers understand that they might not be even though they're reading the same words, they personally might not be the group that succeeds because you are really targeting a specific subset of your audience that, this is going to possibly deliver perfectly for, right? And for others, it'll deliver in a declining bell curve scale. Now,
Yeah.
do you then, you've made this incredible promise, the bold, audacious promise, right? In the copy of the website or landing page, do you then nuance it there? Or do you just stick to the claim, just own it?
No, the claim is just that. It's the big idea on the front end is only to grab their attention. It's just to get them to come your direction. Now, the rest of your copy should reinforce that. Absolutely. You might have a disclaimer in there that, and this is where your credibility comes in, but you can't get to this if you don't grab their attention first. I would say that as you go through your copy, one of the things to build a funnel is you need to make a list of all the objections. And one of the objections is going to be the bullshit factor. One of the objections is going to be just that. Is this guy credible? So at that point, that's where you address it. Once you get them into the copy and they've spent some time, they've invested some time with you, so they're going to listen to you. That's where you say, now, look, I want to be totally honest with you. We all know that this isn't going to work 100% of the time, but, and then you can go into the details. This is why I believe it'll work for you. That's where you regain that credibility. That's where it belongs. It doesn't belong up on the front. It'll just drive them away. You've got to get enough people into the pipe to get that opportunity to build that credibility. Hopefully that makes sense. The credibility is very important. It's just not what you lead with. Not typically anyway. Not to say that there might be some variation of credibility on the front end, but generally with a big idea, you've got to grab attention with it. And the credibility, like when I see someone on stage and they come up there and they haven't done anything at all to tell me what they're going to do for me or what their thing does, and they start talking about themselves and they start pumping up their value and their credibility and all that stuff, that just shuts me down. They're never going to get the chance to earn my business after that.
Unless they have a villa.
Not even with a villa. I mean, the first sign of for me, the first sign of a con man is he's going to show you all this fancy crap. And then he's going to attach what he's trying to sell you to that success. And for me, I especially in the internet marketing space, that's what they all do. And, if you want to just tell me you're a con man, just do that. There's no way you're going to build credibility with me after that. It's just, and again, that's me. That's me. I probably am a little more cynical than most people in the world just because of what I know and what I've seen. I know how people operate. I know the tricks. I mean, I live behind the curtain. It's like the Wizard of Oz. I know what's back there. So not everybody does. There's a cliche. There's one born every minute. One born every minute that you can fool. There's all kind of cliches. A fool and his money is soon parted. They go on and on and on. And that's where, mediocre can work. But if you're talking about trying to get the biggest bang for your buck as a businessman, an entrepreneur, a marketer, and you really want to get your word across, you need to be bold and aggressive. And you shouldn't feel bad about it if you've got something good. If you don't have something good, you should flat out be ashamed of yourself. I mean, it's just that for me, it's that simple. If you've got something good, like let's say you had the cure for cancer and you really did, and you knew it, and you could prove it, and you believed in it, and you really had it. right? And there was a little girl that had cancer and she was going to die. And all you had to do was sell her parents on your cure, and you knew it worked. How hard would you fight for that little girl? Would you throw out a mediocre claim? That's the question. So if you've got something good and you know it works, go all the way to the wall for it, because you know it will help that person. Don't try and sell it to somebody that doesn't need it, doesn't want it, can't use it, just to make a buck. That's just greasy. So I'm sorry if I'm just coming off harsh here, but I've just seen too much of that. But truly, if you've got something great, don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid to sell it. Get people, do whatever it takes to get them to understand how it can benefit them. And that's what your marketing should be all about. That's all it should be about. How does it benefit them? If they understand and you communicate clearly how it benefits them, they're going to buy it. They're going to buy it. They're going to use it. They're going to like it. They're going to love it. They're going to love you for it. And the next time you've got something good, you won't have to sell it hard to them. You just mention it and they'll buy it. That's the way you want to position yourself. That's the kind of credibility you want to build, is just coming through with what you say. So, and I guarantee you, when you operate from that standpoint, your confidence is going to come through in your words. It's going to come through in your stature. People are going to feel it. It's like dogs sense fear. Well, people sense uncertainty. So if you're wishy-washy in your claims, it's just like you're wishy-washy in person. There's no way you're going to get a chance to build credibility if you start off on the wrong foot like that. So that's why I say go all the way to the wall with it. Go all the way to the wall, get their attention, and then prove it. Prove it by showing them how it works, what it'll do for them, why they want it, why they need it, why they can't live without it, why you are the best solution for them. And if you can follow up with those facts, you're going to have great success. So that might have given you more than you wanted, more than you asked for. But that's the way I feel about this.
John, sorry, I have a loud keyboard, so I have to mute when I'm typing notes based on what you say. I appreciate your answers.
Yeah, I feel very strongly about that position, though. So
my takeaway is go hard.
Go hard.
Don't hold back. It's too noisy and nuanced out there.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you're going to have to overcome a lot of noise. So you're not going to do that by whispering. If you're in a crowd and everybody's wearing a yellow shirt, you're going to have to start jumping up and down if you want somebody to see you.
And Allie agrees. I can see her smiling.
Yeah, she's always smiling.
Yep.
So it's funny. I seem like the longer I do this, the more aggressive I get trying to get people to understand how important this is. And I don't really like to come off as aggressive or, but I can hear it. I can hear it coming through me the longer I do this, because it's just so important. So hopefully it's not offensive or anything like that.
John, honestly, I don't think anybody takes it that way. I'm speaking for myself mainly, though, because no matter what, we need to hear the same message over and over. And we're thankful that you don't get tired of giving us the same message in different ways. Again, I'm speaking for myself, but maybe a little bit for the group. Because sometimes, some of this stuff seems simple, like you said, but it's not. And it comes in little bits and pieces. Maybe you catch a line or word here, then you got to go work on it and figure it out. and then you got to hear it again. And so I appreciate it personally.
Yeah, yeah. It's like it's interesting, when I look back at how I was developed. I grew up under a roof of two very different personalities. I had my dad that was the engineer. He was like, it's black or it's white. There's no gray level down the middle. It's right or it's wrong. There's no two ways about it. He was very hard. There was no soft corners on him. There really wasn't. And then my mom, she was the artist. She was creative. She could make, anything out of nothing at all. And, she was very soft. There was no corners to her. It was all soft edges. You were going to fall in powder snow no matter how you landed with her. And I like that. I like that comfort and that nurturing of that powdered snow to fall in every time. But I learned a tremendous amount from my dad about the way the world works. And there is truly a lot of right and wrong. He wasn't right 100% of the time with everything, especially with the way people work. He might have been right in the engineering aspect and the math aspect of there is one way to do these things. And this is the way the world works. But he was a little rough from a people perspective. And so growing up, I always fell toward my mom's side of how I communicated and how I was very soft and gentle with everybody. And the older I get, the more I'm kind of shifting and migrating toward my dad's approach of, there's right and wrong, and you just you do it the right way or you're going to get the wrong result. And I can hear that. I'm not sure I really like it. I like the soft side a lot better. But I just, I'm leaning toward the importance of it. So if I need to shift to get you what you need, I'm willing to do that. So I see that in myself. The longer I go down the path, I just feel like the more and more toward his side that I'm getting, and I'm sorry if it ruffles any edges. It's not meant to. So,
John, Molly has her hand up.
oh, Molly, yes. You want to come out and
Hey, John.
how's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. All's well here in Florida.
Awesome.
I had two quick site pop questions for you. One was if the website has a pop-up on it, but it's not one that interferes, like it's one that you it's just a tab in the corner that you have to click on to get it to come up. Would you have to remove that for site pop?
No, if
it's not one that blocks the whole website, from you being able to explore the website.
Unless it does it automatically, it should be okay. If it's like on my site, I've got the little pop-up window for the help menu down in the bottom right corner, and I've got the ADA compliance button at the top. Those are kind of Java floaters that just float over the page. They don't actually do anything unless you click on them. Those types are okay. But if it's something like SitePop actually scrolls and moves the mouse around the screen. So if it's one where it moves the mouse toward the top and the pop-up window pops up because it thinks you're going to hit the exit button, that can stop the SitePop from being able to move forward because it doesn't know how to click through that and get beyond that.
It's like a bot. For a bot, it's in the bottom right hand corner, and if you click on it, pops up, but it doesn't block the screen.
Okay.
But you'd have to click on it to engage the bot.
You should be okay with that. I wouldn't think that would be a problem, but you would be able to probably see in your results, fairly quickly if it was working. If you're getting results on it, then no problem.
Okay.
So I would not think.
Yeah, I'll give it a try and see if it works out. If it doesn't, worse comes to worse, I'll just tell them they can have their money back. So, the other site pop question I had was, is there an explainer video somewhere about how to use site pop to make Amazon items go to the top?
There actually isn't yet. We haven't really focused too much. We haven't really even done an Amazon promo yet for it. So far, we've mostly been selling it almost exclusively into the SEO world. Although we're adding all this extra functionality, we just haven't rolled around to doing the promos yet to build up the network for those other users. So unfortunately, with that in mind, we haven't created those marketing materials yet. But you could take just about anything we've got. Like we've got that one guy on Fiverr that does the little videos for Site Pop, and we've got the script for him. You could edit that script very easily and have him create one of those little, 2-minute explainer videos and just swap out, Google for Amazon or YouTube or whatever you were promoting. You could do that pretty easily. It's all really kind of the same thing. There's just a couple of words that you need to change. So.
Well, but I mean, is there an explainer for us to use it, like how to make their item go to the top?
Oh,
I don't know how to apply that.
So you're talking about just instruction, usage instruction,
Yeah.
right? Yes, there's a couple of times that we've done that in the, if you go into the training section inside of SitePop, not the app itself where you're setting up the projects, but go to the training section. And in there, we've got best use videos, and look at the last two. The last two of them, we've addressed that. We've shown, how to set it up, how to get the URLs, all of that stuff. So we haven't done like
okay, so that's on the actual Site Pop dashboard website.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I haven't looked at the videos on there yet. Okay.
Yeah, they're kind of long videos and they cover a lot of stuff. It's all really good information though about how to get the most out of Site Pop, no matter what you're using it for. So it's definitely worth a look. But there's little sections in both of those last two that address the Amazon specifically.
Fabulous. I'll check there. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I have usually when we're doing those Q&As and doing those webinars for all of our Site Pop users, I usually bring Chris in and have him tell his story of how we even created it. It's a pretty cool story of how he bought a lot of stuff on Amazon for costume. Him and his dad have a hobby of building costumes, and the costume material, the guy that sells the materials, he was always on like page 3 of Amazon, and Chris got tired of scrolling through to buy his stuff. So he set up a campaign, edited some of the back end so he could use it on Amazon, and it pushed that vendor up to the top. So when he wanted to buy product, they were right at the top for him. He didn't even tell the vendor he was doing it, but he did it for his own purposes. And then he came back and he says, hey, we can add functionality in here to do this on Amazon. I'm like, sure, why not? So far we've just been doing that, giving that to all of our users as a perk and a benefit for being on with us through our growth stages. But eventually we're going to sell that as an individual standalone product. So he talks about,
yeah, it seems like a good way to sell it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other
to
one,
a specific market.
Yeah, the other one, like for what Richard brought up earlier, is another variation of it where we found out we can send the same signals into the GMBs and effectively pump those GMB listings up as well. So it's amazing within search. There's search in all kinds of different websites and functionality. And it's amazing how it all works on user signals these days because of AI. People that run search engines, whether it be, Google, Bing, Yahoo, Amazon, YouTube, it doesn't seem to matter. They're all kind of Google usually spearheads stuff. Whatever Google does, the rest will follow. And same thing here. They've all been kind of following suit. So SitePop has become very universal in what we can use it for, with some slight adjustments on the back end to add more functionality. So.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
John, this is Richard again. I have a question. It seems that one of the earlier comments you made is that you just need to get this in front of enough eyeballs. And it seems to me that there's no middle ground. You either target, and you say, okay, this is a target company, and you go after that one company and you research them and you do the work so that when you talk to them the first time, you know more about their business and marketing than they do. Or on the other side of it, get a bot to go out and put a promotional email in every contact page of every business in the industry you're after. Do you have a psychology or theology for us with regard to which one is a good one or which one is a terrible one to go after?
Well, with there's a lot to answer that question for you. If you were hunting whales, like let's say you're going after big business and one client is going to change your world, then in that case, you are truly hunting as a sniper. So you're going to have to get very specific down to the pinpoint of one customer. Now, if that customer is worth the effort and that customer can change your world, then that's a perfectly viable way to go about it. But if you were trying to do that same amount of work to acquire a customer that you would need 100 of them to change your world, that's going to kill you. That's where you robotically do it. If you need volume and numbers and you want to play the lower end game. Now, one of the ways that can work is if you had an automated funnel that was a door opener. So let's say you had a door opener and you had a beginning intro level product that would lead you to bigger products that you could eventually bag the elephant. And you could put people through the front end of it in mass volume for low cost. And you know, even if it's just break even, you're acquiring a customer base in hopes that you're gonna bring them up through your value ladder. You're gonna sell them more stuff, and you're gonna be very profitable in the end. Right? You follow that scenario. That's when you need volume of numbers, and you don't want to do that by hand. You don't want to put any effort into it. You literally get whatever traffic source you can get and you floodgate it, and you let the system automate the work. And the funnel is basically, remember the cone of the funnel. You put a bunch of people in the top and you're trying to squeeze the right one out the bottom. Well, you might have like 6 layers of sales as they go down through that funnel while you're trying to squeeze that one that you really want out the bottom. The one is that big elephant that you want to bag, and you might need to put 1 million people through the pipe to get them. But you can make a lot of money in the process of while you're waiting for that whale to come into your sights. The other way to do it is you're going to spend a whole bunch of time hunting the whale, and what if you don't get them? You've burned a lot of time, a lot of energy. Your morale is going to be in the toilet, and now you're going to have to do it over and over and over. And how long can you sustain?
Okay, this is coming out of a response of last week. You mentioned that book, and it's 99 cents, but it's actually free if you go to the guy's website, the acquisition.com guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he reminded me of something that the stuff that you forget that about making you don't make an audacious claim. You make a claim that's so big that anybody that looks at that, if they believe it, said, I would be a dumb shit to not take advantage of this offer. And I can mix what we do with the SEO and get people ranked and that sort of thing. But I mixed that with another business that I had many years ago called profitability consulting. And when using their techniques, in addition to the online stuff, I would have no problem going into a manufacturer with sales of $2 to $10 million. Gee, I wonder where I got that number. And say, okay, come with me and I will add a minimum of $1 million in increased profit to your business in the next 12 months. I think that would get some people's attention. And that's certainly a doable thing when you get a company that's doing that kind of stuff, because most of them are doing nothing right. They don't know about big ideas. They don't know about calls to I mean, they don't know. I'm stunned at the number of big manufacturers that do not even have keywords on in their source code and stuff. So, I mean, there are miles that you can go, and $1 million in additional sales for a company that's already doing 3 million is no big deal, really. Because you can increase the company's sale by 15% month over month without a problem, just pulling in the big idea and actually getting them to understand that, hey, you know, marketing works.
Yeah. Well, here's why. I don't know if I've ever told you why I like the 2 to 10 million.
No, you're not.
Here's the reason, and you just picked it up. You picked up on it whether you knew it or not. You can get a company to 2 to 10 million just by being good at what you do. You don't have to be good at marketing, and you're finding out that they're not, and that's why they're stuck in the 2 to 10 million and they haven't moved up to 50 million yet. They've got the money to do it. They just don't know how. They're doing what they do really well, and they're not marketers.
They're experts in their industry. They've gotten where they've gotten because they're so damn good at what they do, but they don't know diddly about what we do.
Nor do they want to. They've got the money. They just want to pay to solve the problem. That's why I like that group so much.
Well, that really speaks to where I see that this needs to go. And yes, there are some lower cost, you know, the using the site pop as a SEO boost and that sort of stuff certainly works. There's a lot of Google Maps stuff you can get people's attention with. There's a lot of site security. I mean, these guys don't even have SSL certificates. Come on.
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy how backwards a lot of people are. I've got a friend of mine that he was in the photo industry back when I started, and he's still in it. And our results are vastly different. You know, he is struggling. He barely makes ends meet. And my wife saw him at a funeral service just about a week ago. And
for his business?
What's that?
For his business?
No, well, you would think, but it was a common friend of all of ours, you know, from those days. I wasn't able to make the service because I had a previous commitment, but she went and she talked to him, and I haven't seen this guy in probably, 15 years, maybe more. And he said he needed some help with his website. So Barb got his card, and she brought it back to me, and she says, hey, Ed needs your help. He wants you to look at his website and make some recommendations for him. And I pulled it up, and I could not believe what I was seeing. It was like, it wasn't mobile friendly. It didn't have an SSL certificate. It looked like a kindergartner built it in the late 80s before there was even standards for websites. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, yeah, he needs help. All right. I'm not even sure where to go with that. But, and he's a businessman that has been in business for 30 years. He's been in the same business for 30 years, and he knows nothing about marketing.
Is that one of those cases where he doesn't have 30 years of experience? He has 1 year's worth of experience 30 times.
Yeah. Well, he's good at what he does. It's back to that. He's good at what he does. He's got a lot of relationships. He does photography. He doesn't do the same type of photography that I used to do. That's why his business didn't die like mine did. I did special effects. I did high-end commercial photography that Photoshop came in and destroyed the industry. It doesn't exist. What I used to do does not exist anymore, which is why I'm not doing it. It was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. But with him, he did portraits and weddings and, school kids photography. And I'm like, if you told me I needed to do that, you just shoot me in the head. I mean, I'll take one to the head or one in the back. It doesn't matter. I'm not doing that shit. That's not my thing. I don't want to be like one of the masses. Anybody can do that.
Well, we had a business in a tourist company, big tourist town, and we went in there, and just as an example, we had a gal that did the same kind of stuff that he did, and she was just getting by. But we say, no, niche down. What would you really, if you could do anything in the world, what would you do? And she says, I would do, I forget what sort of vanity photographs, like the guy that's on the football team. She'd get him out, get him suited up and put him on a football field and take a beautiful action picture of him catching a football or whatever. And she quadrupled her sales without changing anything else, just by niching down and getting narrow and really focusing in on something. And you can do that same thing in just about any business. It's amazing if you really look at it, how narrow you can take it. And as soon as you take it narrow, you multiply what they can make by 4 to 5 times. It's absolutely astounding.
That is pure segmentation and finding the most profitable segments. That's exactly what that is. Like Jim said, take the kids fishing. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that all day long, but I'm not going to take their photograph and just, work them through like a churn mill. That's not me. I'm not a factory worker. Sorry, nothing against factory workers. I'm just not cut from that cloth.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right. Anybody else? All right, guys. Well, thank you for all the great questions, and keep them coming. Hopefully my answers don't waver and I don't get too aggressive. I piss anybody off. I'm going to keep saying the same thing as long as I have to till everybody hears it. All right, guys, have a great week, and we will be on next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Thanks, John.
Bye-bye.
All ashore. Bye.